This is Coach Lee, and I'm going to show you how you can break the cycle of anxiety. The first part of the cycle is where you actually feel the physical symptoms of anxiety. That's nervousness, difficulty breathing, you feel it in your stomach, your muscles tense up. Sometimes people sweat or they become very hot or very cold. Some people even break out into hives or start itching. And so those are the physical symptoms, and that's the first part of the cycle of anxiety, which leads to the second part, which is where you try to remove yourself from the situation. And that's called avoidance. And so if there's someone who's making you feel anxious, maybe you just leave. If it's a situation, maybe you just leave. If it's something on TV, you turn the channel. Or if it's a conversation topic, you change the subject. There's another way that people go into or use avoidance, and that is with drugs or alcohol. And this can be with alcohol that's just something that you do yourself, or this can be a prescription drug. And this is not always all bad unless it's abused, but it does only provide the next part of the cycle, which is short-term relief. And so the drugs that might be prescribed to you or using some kind of recreational drugs like alcohol, it can provide short-term relief, but it does not teach you how to actually manage and handle and correctly respond to be able to handle this in the future. It basically just gives you a temporary cushion to make things easier. And sometimes that's necessary and that's all you have. And sometimes it won't really impact you in the future. Other times it would have been better for you if you had learned to deal with the situation without help, because it will help you in the future. And so the consequences of short-term relief are simply that you actually don't learn and you don't get to have that experience that later you can use and say, you know, I've handled anxiety before, or I've handled this situation before, and I was able to get through it even though it was difficult. So while there are some advantages to short-term relief, especially if you have anxiety disorder and sometimes you respond in an extreme way that doesn't really justify itself given the situation. And obviously you'll want to work with a professional on some of that, but at the same time, do your best to learn how to actually manage and even overcome anxiety as best you can without these things. So they should be seen as short-term. They should be seen as something that can just help you temporarily. But if you really want to master anxiety and have a better future with it, do your best to learn what you can to manage it with mental strength, breathing exercises, and other techniques that I talk about in other videos on this channel, especially with my video Anxiety Help or Help for Anxiety that will be linked to at the end of this video. And please take a second to subscribe to this channel so you can be notified when I have other videos like this that will help you to overcome and manage anxiety. And so what usually happens is that after this final step in the cycle, that particular response, the response to whatever the stimulus was that caused this anxiety cycle, will go away temporarily. But then it can return from another instance of the same stimulus, or it can be another stimulus entirely, another topic, another person, another situation. And if all you know is the 4-step cycle that I mentioned, then that's all you can do, and you are more likely to have to face it again. But if you are able to learn how to overcome this without only short-term relief, then you can keep yourself from getting in the cycle at all, or you can actually stop it in the middle of the cycle and be able to move on from it without suffering the consequences that anxiety often brings to your life. And so when you experience that first stage, that first part of the cycle, where you feel the physical symptoms, it becomes difficult to breathe, or at least it feels that way. You feel nervous. You feel it in your stomach. You might even feel nauseous. Your muscles tense up. The temperature might bother you. That's when you need to start applying some of the techniques that I talk about. And one of them that I'll talk about in relation to the cycle of anxiety is that as soon as you start to feel like breathing is difficult, that's when you really put your focus on your breathing. And you breathe slowly and you breathe deeply. And you tell yourself, I can breathe. This is not real. It's not reality. It's something that I'm feeling, and what you feel is not always real, but I can breathe. And so that's when you breathe slow and deeply to demonstrate to yourself that you can breathe. And maybe you use the 4-4-4 breathing technique that I talk about in another video, which is where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you count them in your head when you do it. So you would breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And you would repeat that, and basically that's all you would focus on. You would not think about the issue. You would give yourself a break from that momentarily. You can come back to it, but you would only focus on breathing. Your only objective, your only goal in life at that moment is breathing. And this, of course, is if you don't have to get away from an immediate danger. If your life is in danger, it's an animal, it's a person, it's a machine, whatever it is that is providing immediate danger, then certainly you need to get out of the situation. But if it's not something like that, if it's situational, if it's based on a topic, then you should basically make it your only responsibility in life. The only thing that anyone is asking from you is that you breathe. And so that becomes your only mission. The whole universe becomes you breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, and breathing out. And doing a good job of it, as though you're a perfectionist in this very thing. When you put that kind of hyper focus onto something like that, it distracts you and it helps you to lower your level of anxiety. So even when you come back to the topic, you usually will feel much better. Your mind is much more balanced. Your emotions are more balanced. Your body, the symptoms, the physical symptoms have gone away, at least in part and oftentimes completely. And you're able to handle the situation much better. And you can always come back to that breathing cycle, that breathing technique. Whenever you start to feel the anxiety come on, I've talked to people who have done 2 hours of that breathing cycle to help them because they were just so anxious about the situation. They experienced such a level of anxiety and they didn't want to leave it because they felt such relief from it. And that's fine too. And I talk about other ways to help you overcome anxiety in other videos. And I suggest that you look at those other videos so that you can keep yourself from getting too far into this cycle of anxiety and so that you know how to break it when it does happen, because we're all human and it will happen from time to time. You can book a coaching call with one of my coaches who can help you to overcome anxiety and to apply techniques to your life that can help you really be able to manage and work with it to where you can overcome it. You can do that at myanxietypeace.com. The website is myanxietypeace.com.